I'm Jeremy, and we're going to continue on with Rule 3 in Jordan Peterson's book, Making Friends with People Who Want the Best for You. So I've done part 1, and we're going to go on with part 3. And this, he's talking a lot about his friends and his childhood and the choices that you make and how they're important. He talks a lot in other things about moving out on your own. And so this is kind of a constant theme that kind of comes on in his biblical series. He talks about this where I forget who it is exactly, but he's like in his 80s because supposedly back during the Old Testament, people lived several hundred years old, depending on when exactly it is that you're looking in the Bible. So, but I think he kind of stresses sometimes, and I don't think you could get this just from the book, but from watching the rest of his lectures as well, is that moving out on your own gives you a chance to kind of have the phoenix die and be reborn, because it allows you to bury your past and start anew somewhere else, kind of learning from your mistakes. Because whenever you're in the same place and you've grown up there and you're just there, then everybody knows what you've done, and they're going to kind of hold that over your head and kind of judge you. So before we get any further, if you like what I've been doing, subscribe, hit a thumbs up. I have Patreon and Subscribe Star, so you can help me out there. And it's like, yeah, I've done that. I've had my fair share of moves, and it is something that I think that I'm definitely going to be doing. I know I'm going to move again. I don't know how many more times I want to move, but I do know that I want to move at least one more time, and probably far away, because I am too close to people who just, I need to let them burn and die and just go and just separate and let them do their thing, and I'm going to do mine. And it was really, so for example, the first time whenever this happened was whenever I was in the Army, and I was surrounded by completely different people. They didn't know anything about my past or my family or friends or anything. And so it was, yeah, you got to start over without having all of that baggage under you. Now, that doesn't mean that the baggage goes away or it's not something that you don't need to address. I mean, it's going to come back at some point in time. But man, what a relief it is to have off of your shoulders. So, and then it also gives you a chance to be able to do things better than before. So whenever that stuff comes up from the past, it's like, yeah, well, I've kind of evolved past that because this is what my life is now. And this is something that happens with people who have addiction. So people who go off and they go to the counseling sessions where it's like an entire, it's that they have an entire facility and you actually live there, they do extremely well. But then they come back home and it's the same routine that they get stuck in before. It's the same friends, the same routine, the same whatever. They hang out with a friend, and the next thing they're doing whatever it is that they used to do before. And so one of the things that they really talk about is that you have to pick everything up and just completely go somewhere else, because you have to change those habits. You got to get out of those ruts, but you also have to have the mindset to be able to do all that stuff. And he talks about this where him and his friends, they took a trip, and round trip, it was 800 miles. And he was excited to do all this stuff, to do something that was new and different, and not to worry about anything from that little town that he was raised up in. But whenever they got there, his two friends that were with him, they wanted to go and indulge in smoking pot and drinking, and they just sat in a hotel room and they did absolutely nothing. And it was no different than them actually just staying home. They could have done all that. And I know exactly what he's talking about whenever he was bringing this up, because it was the same thing with guys in the military. There were all of these guys that were there, of course, and they did absolutely nothing that you couldn't have done in the States. Yep, they went out to bars and they played pool and they drank and they did all this kind of stuff. And so many of them did not take advantage that we're in Germany, you fools. And we're only going to be here for a few years. And of the time that we're here, we're going to spend a lot of that time training. So you had Hornsville and Grafenwehr. We were also deployed to Bosnia for a year. And we did a little bit of joint training in Poland for a couple of weeks. So it's not like you have all this massive amount of time to be able to go and do whatever you want. No, you had your obligations that you had to do to the military first. And man, so many just didn't do anything. So they did offer things, like we did have a trip that the troop did to go to Spain. And so whenever I was there, I went to Neuschwanstein Castle, which is there in Germany. I went to Austria and went whitewater rafting. I went to Barcelona and saw the bullfights. I took a hovercraft across the English Channel to the White Cliffs of Dover and went around in England. And then there were other people. There were several guys that whenever they got their paycheck, they drank it all away. and they did nothing. They were barracks rats, and so were some of the girls that hung around there. Just barracks rats. They did absolutely nothing. They wouldn't even leave the base and go outside. And it's like they had so many good food, places to go eat. It was just why they just didn't ever do any of that. I don't know. I don't understand it at all. It's like this is a one lifetime opportunity. Why would you not do that? So it's like, yeah. And so what about you? Have you done all this? And so one of the things that I've done later in my life is that, if I could go back and do things differently, how would I do them? And then how can I implement that to my life now? And so one of the things is that I've showed this before, is that I had this little skull thing, and it's got skulls on it. It's just a bracelet. It's called a bangle though, technically, but I just wear this around, and this is just to remind me that life is short, and that whenever something different comes up, to not be a damn coward and to go do something. Because I can look back on my life and say, yeah, I wish I shoulda, woulda, coulda kind of thing. And it's like, no, that should not happen. I should not be so damn scared. Because you know what? There are people who do go out into the world and they do all these things and they have a good time of it. Why can't I be one of them? Why can't you be one of them? It's because of us. You know what? All of our feelings and emotions that we have inside of us, it comes only from ourselves. So, you're the only person who can deal with this. I'm the only one who's dealt with all of this, and it's done me a great bit of good doing this. And I'm not going to continue to stop, and that's why I'm doing this portion. So if you're on YouTube, I have 2 channels. I have Freedom of Expression and Practical Focused Improvement. And it's because I need to continue to develop my character even more, because I'm going to be engaged in more than ever before. And I want to be able to be a strong individual so I can deal with the challenges that I yet have to face. And so, yeah, that's 100% my mindset with all this. And then he talks about his Chris, where later in life they kind of meet up and they kind of keep in contact a little bit. And Chris has a problem with pot, and Jordan Peterson's kind of asking, did the pot, did it make him better or worse? Did it help nullify the pain, or did it exaggerate it? And why don't we have the answer to this stuff? And it's because of stupid damn regulations and laws saying, no, you can't do this. And the answer should be, is like, yes, you should if you want to. Because in a very real way, it's a new frontier. Just because there's more than one way to experience new frontiers. And it's not just going off and seeing some new land somewhere. There also need to be brave people who do things like this. It's like, well, can pot actually be used for good, or is it just bad? Alcoholism or drinking is a good example of this. Whenever you drink in moderation, there's a lot of pros to it. Whenever you take it to some kind of excess, and then you turn it into something else, into alcoholism. So is this the same thing with pot? Is a little bit in moderation, is it good for you? And if so, by how much? Or is it completely bad? Is there a line in the sand whenever you cross it that it becomes horrible? It's like, well, the only way that we're ever going to know this is that people are just going to have to do this. And so, like Colorado, if Colorado wants to legalize marijuana, let them. But there's a second part to that, and that is, what is going on? Where's the research and the data to help show all the good and bad? Because I want to know. Why wouldn't anybody want to know? Knowing's not going to do anything except make us better in our ability to make better decisions. And so, and then he talks about, again, about how old friends, why did they choose to continue to do these same things? And it just made me remember this meme about stupidity. And it's kind of I guess it's more of a platitude. But if you continue to do the same things, why would you expect a different result? And that's what his friends did. Some of these that he's talking about, at least right now, is that they continued to do the same things. They had the same low-life friends. They continued to hang out at the same low-life places, no matter where they were. So it's like, even whenever they went to that other city that was 400 miles away, 800 round trip, that they still ended up in the same place. They had, for whatever reasons, to do anything different. And so there's no one to blame for all this stuff except for them. Well, I mean, some of it too is definitely their parents and their education. It's like, and why is that going on? We should not be there. And it's because we are not using technology anywhere close to its fullest degree whatsoever. And that's one of the things that this website's going to be, that I'm going to build. So yeah, it's absolutely stupid. I don't want to hear you bitching and complaining about how bad your life is whenever you're not doing anything about it. It's one thing to not, if you don't know what to do, that's one thing. But whenever you don't even attempt, that is something different. And this is something that Jordan Peterson talks about, is that whenever you're passing by and you see a homeless person there on the street and they're begging with their hands out or whatever, that is 50 major problems of mess right there. And you are in no way qualified to deal with that at all. First and foremost is that you don't know them, you don't know their past, you don't know what their family was like, you don't know anything. And just giving them some stranger random money, that is not kindness, that is enabling, and you're going to make things worse. You're not doing them any good at all whatsoever. So it also, he talks about this, I don't know if he says it, but at least it was one of the two. It was either he said it in the book, or it reminded me of failure to learn from the past. People who fail to learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. And it's like, yep, absolutely. If you're not going to change, then of course the same things are going to continue to happen. So if you don't try to stop your alcoholism or whatever substance abuse or what other bad habits that you have, then you haven't learned, and you're going to continue to experience the same things with weight loss or whatever. And so that's what I did. And I took it very slowly, because whenever I just went to just salads, it was just bleh. But whenever I started to take apart all these little things that I was doing, and I will go into this detail, I have a mission statement, I have a schedule and a routine, and I try very hard to do it. And I'm going to get really hard on it again, because I want to show a little bit of it. I did, because I tell you what my goal is. I'm gonna have some good muscle definition with all this. And it's because I've come too far that I will never go back again. I have done a whole bunch of little steps. It took a lot of time. It's like, I'm not going to do all that. I'm not going to repeat that stuff. I've got better things to do than waste my time gaining all the weight and then fighting to get rid of it again. And I don't like these people too, where I've seen some of these trainers where they go out and they gain the weight and they find it very hard to eat all of it, and then they lose it and they're like, see, I did it too. It's like, no, you don't. You do not understand food addiction, where you can crave all that stuff. They talk about it in the opposite sense, in that it was very hard for them to eat. It's like, it's not hard for me to eat it. It's not hard for me to eat it at all. And then he talks a little bit later about how you cannot help those who do not want to be helped. It doesn't matter how good your intentions are. It doesn't matter how much that you know. And he's talked about this in other lectures that he's had, is that people who just don't want to be helped, stop wasting your time. And there's actually a biblical verse that he talks about, and that is, do not cast your pearls before swine. And so, in other words, don't waste your time helping people who don't want it. Even if they're just pearls of wisdom and they're just spot on, it doesn't matter if that person's not interested. So yes, whenever you're making friends, you want people who want the best for you, and it's a mutual two-way street. So this is going to be something that's extremely hard. You know, we get comfortable where we're at, and you have to take a real hard look. Look at the people in your life. What are they really doing for you? Are they really doing anything for you? Or are they just acting like trash all the time? Are they bringing you down? And doing what's best for that other person means helping them with what their goals are. So if you, like, for example, have parents or friends, and they say, well, I'm trying to help you out. It's like, well, are you? Or are you actually trying to manipulate me to get what you want out of it? And because these are not what I want out of my life. These are things that you want out of your life. Something to think about, for sure. And he also talks about that people who are wanting the help, they get exploited by others. And I see that a lot. I see that happening just with charity groups, you know, where Tim Pool talks about this too, where he used to do charity work, and he knew people that they knew how to play the system, and that they would go from one place to the next, and then that way they could get everything that they needed. They knew where to go to get food and clothes and just all kinds of crazy, stupid stuff. And it's because the welfare system is a system of enabling, and it should be a different system. And I know if I explained it, you would know exactly what it is. But I'm thinking of what I'm going to do is that maybe once a month, I'm going to focus in on one topic and just kind of really throw it off the tracks and explain why it's wrong and how we could do it so much better. So we'll see. Right now I have too much going on. I'm trying to learn about how to do better with thumbnails and with titles and all that stuff. So. Also, whenever he's talking about this, he uses quite a bit of values. And so bad values, vices, vanity and narcissism, for example. And so part of what makes this so complicated is that if you're just reading through this and you don't understand the terminology that goes along with it, take a few moments and just Google it real quick. Just type in vanity, narcissism. Make sure that you have a clear definition. So I created a video about forgiveness where it's exactly that, because I know people don't understand what forgiveness is or what it could be. And I was definitely one of those. And whenever I go around and I talk to people about this, it's like, oh, I never thought about it like that. But a light bulb does click on this, because usually most people are not stupid. They just are unaware. And so the more that you look into this, the better off that you're going to be with your ability to make better decisions, because you're the only person who can do this. No matter how much stuff that I know, I'm never going to be a part of your life and be able to help you out. And that's the same way with every single person. Nobody's going to be with you 24/7. So you just have to claim responsibility for yourself. And then whenever we get into the last bit of it, man, he says something that I think it would really help clear things up for a lot of people. It's something that I think I actually missed the first time that I read it. But if you have a friend and you would not recommend them to be a friend for your family members, for your parents, or a brother or sister, or your children, why are they your friend? You know, really, what's going on? You know, that is just so clearly evident. Why is that person your friend? You need to have the courage to let go of the BS. I don't mind saying profanity, but it's just, I know that harms me, because I want people to be able to listen to this with their children and others and not worry about it too, because I need to hold myself up to a certain level of standards, not just for myself, but for everyone. It's not just me. And then a little bit further into it, he starts talking about what is it, loyalty? That you have loyalty to that person, and that is absolutely wrong. I mean, he nails it. He's right. He's like, you should not hold loyalty to someone who's not being fair and honest with you. And it's like, that's right. And I wanted to take it a little bit further. It's because you should not hold this blind loyalty to people just because of some trivial nonsense. You need to hold loyalty to people who also share your same values, such as people who are fair, who are honest, who are dependable. But that also means that you have to do the same in return. It should be a two-way street. It should be reciprocal. Absolutely. I mean, if you want to make your life better, then you have to start somewhere, and you can start with yourself and developing yourself. And who knows, maybe you can also get these friends and family members to also go along. And if so, that would be great. That'd be really nice. But if they don't, it's like, well, then that's their decision. Don't be an authoritarian and say that, well, I demand that you do this, or whatever. I mean, in a way, yeah, you kind of are, because you can say, well, this is what I'm doing, and you're welcome to join along. But if you don't want to, then I guess we're going to have to part ways, because I'm not going to stay like this. You know, and so you're welcome to join. But if not, then, hey, maybe I'll catch you around sometime. So I'm not going to go into the rest of it, and that's because I really want you to go and to read the book yourself, or to watch the audio. I'm going to have a link in the description below again to this audiobook. It's just a guy who, I'm assuming that he bought the book and now he's just reading it, and he's divided it up into all these sections. I would really recommend buying the book, because I just think that you kind of take it in more whenever you actually see it. If you just don't want to buy the book, then at least turn on the closed captions and sit down and at least take some notes. But yeah, I think that's kind of good for right now. And so we will continue on with part 4. And I think with part 4, I'm also going to go ahead, or sometime between now and within part 4, I'm going to go over kind of my diet. But I think people have a really big impact on people's lives. It's like right now, I have a friend, and he has someone in his life who is just, they are polar opposites with what they do and what they believe, and his life is just trash whenever this person is around. They do kind of have to mingle together a little bit, but this other person is just manipulative. They lie. So the person is actually a psychopath or psychotic. I forget which one it is, but the definition is roughly that it's somebody who does physical or mental harm, where they go around and they build up trust with people, and then they turn it against them. They kind of have the mindset of that it's obvious to me, and it's so obvious that it should be obvious to you too. And if it's not, then somebody's going to take advantage of you. And so it might as well be instead of someone else. And then people finally catch on and they get tired of it. And then they have to leave and they have to move again. And so if you know someone where they move around a lot, or they don't have a lot of friends and family, or they don't have long-term connections, those are all kind of telltale signs, and you should be wary of someone like that. So, but that's going to do it for now. If you've liked all this stuff, subscribe, hit the thumbs up. I've got Patreon and subscribe star too. And we will catch you again later. Thanks a lot. Bye.